Everybody, welcome to another edition of the KREF High School Huddle on this KREF Sports TV YouTube channel. Remember, follow us on all of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, X, and Facebook. We're already continuing to put out content over the summer as we continue to keep you updated on everything going on around our sports and our schools leading up to the start of softball, volleyball, and football season in August. That's Connor Pasby. I'm Grayson Singleton. As always, glad you're spending a few moments of your day here with us. Coming up on today's show, we're going to start and end with football recruiting because 5 players that are part of our OKC Metro teams have been fast rising and or have been in the news in the 2026 and 2027 football recruiting cycle. So we thought it'd be a good time to catch everybody up on what's going on with some of these football players that are looking to get their names into the next level. So glad you're here with us. We'll also talk at the end of the show about a couple of guys in the 918 for Broken Arrow. We've mentioned them before, but we think it's appropriate to mention them again. So that will be yours coming up here during this here show. Let's start in the 2026 class, and let's go up I-35 from where we are to Edmond Santa Fe. Now, why are we going to Edmond Santa Fe to lead off the show? Because 2 defensive linemen have been in the news. Jalen Battle, a 3-star, according to Rivals, has had a future cast put in by the recruiting analysts at Rivals for Arizona State. At the same time, Landon Anderson, also a 3-star defensive end, according to Rivals, has decommitted from the University of Kansas, a commitment that he had held for quite some time. Now, the interesting thing between those two is that Landon Anderson has taken an official visit already to both Arizona State and Oklahoma State. And Edmond Santa Fe fans would also be familiar with Arizona State because leading rusher from last year, DeMarcus Robinson, is an Arizona State Sun Devil now. So the Devils have made inroads to Edmond Santa Fe High School with Robinson and now could continue it with 2 defensive linemen, Jalen Battle and Landon Anderson. So, Connor, we're kicking things off here with a future cast and a decommit. What's your take on all of this going on with these 2 Wolves defensive linemen?
Yeah, Battle and Anderson, they're both 2 forces up front on the D-line for Edmond Santa Fe. Battle at 6'2", 280, Anderson 6'3", 275. So both of them are big. They got great size up front, and they were a problem last year, and they're going to be a problem again on the D-line. Just looking at Battle stats that he had last year, 65 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, and 13 QB hurries. So he can get to the quarterback with no problem. And you can't double team one guy because the other one's going to find a way to get to the quarterback. You got to deal with both of them. And going into this season, Edmond Santa Fe is going to rely on those 2 to have a big season for him.
Yeah, no doubt. And, Edmond Santa Fe in a period of transition right now. We don't really know who their quarterback is going to be. But what we do know is if you can get pressure on the other team's quarterback, that can keep you in games, also along with shutting down a running game. I think the Arizona State connection here is just so fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Going back to Robinson in the 2025 class, and now you've got these 2 defensive linemen. Maybe one of them, Langston Anderson, has visited Oklahoma State. Maybe one of them ends up there. But Kenny Dillingham is starting to make a little bit of relationship with Edmond Santa Fe now and their 2 defensive linemen.
No, he is. And Demarius Robinson's such a fun running back to watch. Very quick first step. And he was hard to get down on the ground. And he's got electric speed, can get down the line. And, yeah, what a joy he was to watch. I'm sure he's going to find a way to get involved in the backfield for Arizona State early on in his career. But, yeah, you're right. A little bit of a connection there with the Sun Devils.
Again, and just to be clear, none of these guys are committed right now. Only a future cast, which is basically a prediction that the recruiting sites do. There is a future cast out for Jalen Battle to end up with Arizona State. He has not committed there as of yet. He, by the way, is taking an official visit to Houston this coming weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of an impression the Cougars can have on the Edmond native. Landon Anderson, again, decommitted from Kansas within the last couple of days. He has already visited Arizona State and Oklahoma State. So again, both guys, recruitment still wide open. It remains yet to be seen where they will end up. Just to make sure we have covered our bases there. I believe Jalen Battle, and I'm working to confirm this, I believe Jalen Battle did camp at Oklahoma recently too, but it doesn't seem like Oklahoma ever extended an offer to Jalen Battle. But let's go to the 2027 class, shall we? By the way, actually, before we go to the 2027 class, I do want to throw this out there. A guy that I know did camp at Oklahoma is Trip Roberts, a defensive end for Edmond Memorial, who had a really good season. And Roberts' name keeps coming up when we talk about Edmond Memorial because he, along with Logan and Tegan Lesh, make up a really good Edmond Memorial defensive line. And speaking of the Leshes, Tegan Lesh just got an offer from UCO earlier today. So Edmond Memorial now starting to jump in with these offers. And we'll get back to the Bulldogs in just a second. But thoughts on Edmond Memorial's defensive line led by Roberts and Lesh?
Yeah, just rising stars, Grayson. And we saw what they did on that side of the ball last year. They're going to continue to be solid with the guys they brought back. And there's no surprise that these guys are getting offers, more offers before the season even starts. And yeah, it's a defense that is just loaded right now for Memorial, no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, this will be a fun one, I think. I think Memorial's defensive line is going to be something that you're going to want to really keep an eye on as we go into the football season. Let's go to the 2027 class because this is where things start to get really, really fun. Now, the P4 offers for the 2027 class are just now starting to heat up, except for the really high-profile candidates. And some of them you can find at the very tops of the list on the recruiting sites. But some of our guys, namely Colton McComb, the linebacker from Edmond Memorial, and Ben Kolar, a tight end from Norman North, have started to catch steam. Now, Kolar's recruitment has been more mainstream as of about a month ago, but he has started to get offers from Kansas State, from Miami, from Michigan, and how about this? Oklahoma, who did not offer his older brother Charlie Kolar, who is now with the Baltimore Ravens, has kicked the tires on Ben Kolar. So, very interesting development there. As it pertains to Colton McComb, he too got an Oklahoma offer after camping in Norman last weekend. He also has offers from Oklahoma State, which he got a couple of days after the OU offer, and then Tulane and Purdue round out his offer slate. So, Connor, where do you want to start first? We got Ben Kolar, 3-star tight end, whose recruitment is starting to really catch fire, and Colton McCombs, who may be just beginning.
Yeah, we can start with Ben Kolar, Norman North tight end, 6'3", 225, and that's going to be a kid that's going to continue to get bigger. 2027 kid. Last year, 643 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. He made some big plays for Norman North, and he's going to do that again this upcoming year. And you're right about those offers. They continue to go up. And the family tree of the Kolars, I mean, it's been fun and interesting to watch. Charlie Kolar, his brother, former Iowa State tight end, currently a tight end for the Ravens. And John Kolar spent 4 years at OSU, then made a transfer to Iowa State at quarterback. And how about his sister, Katie Kolar, a D1 volleyball player at Cal State Northridge. So he's got it in the tree, Grayson, for sure. And Ben Kolar, he's a problem, and he's a tough guy to go up against if you're a defense.
He's huge, number one, and he makes up a receiving core between him and Mason James and others that is going to be really intriguing for Norman North this year. 6'2", I believe, is what he's at right now. Maybe taller, maybe more closer to 6'3", 6'4".
He'd like us if we say 6'3".
You know what? Let's go directly to what he says. 6'3", 225.
There we go.
6'3", 225 is what we're going to go with for Ben Kolar. No, a very fast mover, can own the middle of the field. Excellent hands and excellent catch radius, too. He's very good at high pointing the football. Just makes him a very good, well-rounded target for a quarterback. And then there's Colton McComb, who I was going back through his highlights today because we want to show the highlights of some of these guys that we're talking about. And just a guy that just has a nose for the football, plays with his hair on fire. Right before we came on to record this podcast, he got an offer, and I left this one out on purpose. He got an offer from Kansas, where his brother David is set to be a freshman quarterback. So a really, really fun time for the McComb family in that regard. But that should make this interesting because Oklahoma really likes this guy, but you have the familial connection over in Lawrence. So that should be a recruitment that's really fun to follow. That will be really fun to follow in the coming months.
Yeah, David currently at Kansas, but when we just talk about Colton McComb, what he did last year, 67 tackles, 21 sacks, QB hurries, 6 pass breakups, just go on and on with the stats that he had last year for Memorial. He's a problem. He's got that quick first step and the ability to get to the quarterback. And you're right, just always around the football. And he was kind of the leader of that pack defensively for Edmond Memorial, and he's continued to be this upcoming year.
Yeah, and again, always around the football, also has versatility, plays running back a little bit too.
We saw him score a few times, and he got some carries in some short yard situations just with the size that he has. And I mean, they just trusted him to get a yard or two when they got in the goal line.
6'1", 205 is Colton McComb. Really good speed, so should translate coverage-wise to the power four. Should be a really, really fun one to follow there. Let's go to UConn and corner Daniel Yebbett, who also is in the 2027 class, approaching his junior year. He currently holds offers from Minnesota, who's been on a recruiting tear, by the way, in the 2026 class, UTSA, and the aforementioned Arizona State. So Daniel Yebbett, tell us more about him, because he's one I've yet to familiarize myself with. What are some of the best things we should know about the UConn corner?
Yeah, I like this kid, and he's got good size at corner. He's really long at 6'2", 170. When you look at his stats, 42 tackles, 2 interceptions. We saw the pick 6 that he had in the first game of the season against Putnam City. He's a guy that stands out on the field. He's got speed, and he can lay the wood for his size at corner. He can get downhill and lay a big hit, and he's a big part of that defense for UConn, and another one of those rising stars, and he's going to be fun to watch for the Millers.
Corners like to tackle. I love corners who like to tackle. That's a really fun one. 6'2", 170, so really good size.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's not pretty good size. That's really good size for a guy who's entering into his junior year. So he should be one that I think his stock is not done rising. You have a really good junior year, that stock could start to go really through the roof.
And he had some big games when you look at some of his highlights against Broken Arrow and Wasso. He had quite a bit of plays in there, and there was a few times in goal line when he was able to shed off a block and lay a big hit, and you really don't see that out of corners, and that's what separates Yebbett from other guys that play that corner spot in the state, is that he can hit.
Let's go to the 918 to round all this recruiting talk out, because Broken Arrow, we've talked about, they got 2 defensive backfield transfers. First from Owasso, Bryson Brown, and then from Jinx, Samaj Stanford. Bryson Brown, a consensus 4-star in the class of 2027, and a guy who will be actively pursued by literally everybody. That commitment's going to be the creme de la creme of schools. Also, the same could be said for Samaj Stanford. Now, could they stay in state with Oklahoma? Maybe, but they also are going to come at a pretty penny for those two. But let's keep it at football here. 2 safeties for Broken Arrow that are 4-star recruits. This is gonna be something very interesting as Broken Arrow tries to catch Bixby and Owasso in that 918 race.
Yeah, they got some talented guys, and when we talk about those 2 guys coming in, I mean, for quarterbacks, it's a lot to deal with, and you better be sure you take care of the football with them 2 around. They're 2 ball hawks that can really make some plays, and it's an exciting time for Broken Arrow, a team that is looking to make a deep run when they get into the postseason. That is a good way to start on the defensive side of the ball with 2 electric playmakers.
So Samaj Stanford currently has Nebraska, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Houston, Texas Tech's in there. Miami has offered, as well as Oregon. Samaj Stanford is trending toward blue chip status when it comes to his recruitment in the 2027 class. He is consensusly, regarded as a stud in the class. Oklahoma's also offered Bryson Brown. So has Arkansas. So has Nebraska. So has Penn State and Texas A&M. So, Broken Arrow, good job. Because you have 2 bookends on your defense that should be a problem. Is Broken Arrow, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I want to return to this conversation. Is Broken Arrow, could they be considered one of the, not sleeper, but one of the teams that you could see the biggest jump from last year losing in the first round to Deer Creek to a team that could realistically compete for a state championship this year?
I think so, just because of the season that they had. It was a down year for Broken Arrow standards. So if we're just talking about that is a team coming in that's a little under the radar that you're going to expect a lot out of from a year ago. And those 2 guys, we saw them at the Bixby team camp. They were not hard to find. They were already making plays defensively at that Bixby team camp, and they're going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. Broken Arrow should be a lot of fun to watch, as should the defensive lines of Edmond Memorial and Edmond Santa Fe. Ben Kolar should be interesting in his junior year with his size and who he's paired with, and the new quarterback with Norman North. And then Daniel Yebbett, see if he can continue to become a lockdown corner. And I think Yebbett is one of those guys whose stock is going to absolutely explode if he has a really, really good junior season. So is the world of recruiting. It's a lot of fun.
No, it is. And we talk about, I think it was yesterday, the day before, Nakwaine Carter for Southmoore, D tackle, 6'2", 270. He's committed to Kansas.
Oh, yes.
And we saw him, he's a wrestler too, really good wrestler. He's in the 285 class. And for Southmoore last year, of course, he made plays on the D line, but they also gave him the football at his size too in goal line. So that's a great athlete that Southmoore has. And yeah, going into this year, Carter's going to be a great player to watch, and yeah, committed to the University of Kansas.
Sounds like, and by the way, congratulations to Nakwaine Carter on the commitment to KU. It sounds like Jalen Brewster, who is the defensive tackle from Cedar Hill, who is regarded pretty much unanimously as the #1 defensive tackle in the class of 2026. They hand him the ball just anywhere on the field. Just have him just run the ball.
Have fun tackling that. Yeah, good luck.
Generally, most teams don't. they don't tackle.
I could imagine, getting down low on a guy with that much size. That's got to hurt.
Nah, I mean, his knees are probably as big as most people's arms in that case. That'll do it for this week's edition of the KREF High School Huddle on this KREF Sports TV YouTube page. Remember, subscribe and like and follow us on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, and, of course, on Twitter as well. We're going to continue to post our updates with all of our athletes and all of these guys that are continuing to get looked at and ultimately choosing where they will end up going to school for the next 4 years. That's Connor Pasby. I'm Grayson Singleton. We will talk to you next week here on KREF Sports TV. Talk to you later. Have a good weekend.